All right, it's another edition of the Irie 98 podcast. Rusty G, I am here in the studio with some very special guests. I've got Andrew Holmes here with me from Gosling's.
Good morning.
I've got Adam Ash here with me, the executive chef at Hamilton Princess, and I have Shanice Frazier, chef de partie, also Hamilton Princess, representing Crown and Anchor. Is that correct? The restaurant there?
Yes.
And we are here to talk about the lionfish chowder competition going down next week, Saturday. That is April 29th, correct?
March
29th. April, Jesus. What am I saying? March 29th, people, next week.
Maybe
What's
it's
going
so
on?
good we'll do it again. But no. Yeah, next weekend.
Absolutely. So tell me about this. Tell me about what exactly is this?
So lionfish, as I'm sure most locals are aware now, are invasive species here to Bermuda. There's no natural predators in the Atlantic Ocean. They showed up in our waters probably close to 20 years ago. And for over the last decade, there's been a real strong initiative at culling the lionfish population on the island. Unfortunately, they go deep in the summer when the water is warmer for swimming. So it's harder to get them in the summer months. So there's a big initiative around the winter months to go out and cull the lionfish. So we've partnered up with Butterfield and Vallis, who's the lead sponsor on this event, and the Bermuda Aquarium to host a lionfish chowder competition. So it's a little friendly competition between our local restaurants here. Butterfield and Vallis sponsors the lionfish cullers to go out and get the fish. So they provide the fish to the restaurants, and then they come with their best chowder they can bring to the aquarium hall, and it starts at 1 p.m. and all are welcome to come and taste the chowder. We have professional judges as well as a People's Choice Award. So everyone has a vote in to say who the best chowder is. And Hamilton Princess are the returning champions of last year's lionfish chowder competition.
Is that correct?
That is correct, and no pressure on us whatsoever. We're going to try to repeat. But,
Okay.
So yeah, we were in it for the last 2 years. The first year we didn't win, but we learned a lot, and it was just fun to be involved in it. And then last year we sort of upped our game a little and rethought our tactics.
Okay.
And yeah, we came up with the win last year. So we're excited to do it again this year with a different team of chefs.
Okay. All right. And this is the team.
And this is one of them. Yeah, Shanice.
One of the key members of the team here.
Absolutely.
So you want to tell us a little bit about your background, your experience as a chef, and just give us your story. What's up?
Well, I grew up in a small island, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
And yes, we are one of the islands that deal with a lot of fish as well. So when Chef told me about the competition, I was eager to join because this is something I love. Fishing is something I love. And when Chef hired me, we were on our interview, I was telling him, Chef, this is something I love to do. I love fishing.
Okay.
Because outside of me being in the kitchen, I love being in the sea. So
Okay.
I was very intrigued in dealing with this fish chowder competition, and we are going for the win this year again.
So who do you feel is your biggest competition this year? Can we say?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. I think, you always have some crowd favorites. Wahoo's is always there, and a couple of years ago, I don't know if they'll be there again this year, but the first year the winners were Chico and Tees.
Okay.
And then you get a couple of not just restaurants, but a couple of other hotels like the Lauren. They turned up a couple of years ago when they were there. They did a very interesting individual spin on how they did it. And I think that's a little bit of fun as well. It's not necessarily Bermudan chowder. So it's not your classic thing because you're using the lionfish.
Because you're using lionfish.
So again, a lot of people have their own way to do their own spin on it and have a bit of fun. And I think that's the key as well is, it's mostly have a bit of fun about getting the word out, promoting about lionfish, the removal of the lionfish. I mean, the tagline is "Eat 'em to beat 'em." Correct?
Yes, it
right?
is.
And
That's something I'm very familiar with.
yeah.
And I think they've done a great job in putting that out there to Bermudians as a whole to understand the importance of us getting rid of these fish, or doing as much as we can to reduce the numbers.
Yeah, and we have a little card up our sleeve is that actually there's a competition between spear fishermen on the island or people on the island, and every year there's a competition and they strive to see who can get the most lionfish. And last season the winner is our executive pastry chef, JJ Hauser.
Okay.
So he actually got the most lionfish out of the water last year, won the competition. I think it's really, we're obviously very passionate about it, about the cooking element, but also about the fact of culling the lionfish too. So
Got you.
So I want to send a big shout out to Making Waves. Making Waves sponsors the Winter Lionfish Derby, which encourages all these divers to go out when it's not so nice to go swimming and cull these lionfish. Right. Yeah, they host a little reception for them at the aquarium, and we provide some beverages. But it's a great community, and thanks to all of them that go out and provide us with some tasty fish to use in chowder.
Exactly.
So a question I have for the chefs here is, so you mentioned, the differences with cooking and using lionfish versus a traditional chowder. What exactly are those differences? What are the challenges per se with using lionfish, or what makes lionfish something that is almost kind of like a unique now addition to a traditional Bermudian dish?
I think it's a different flavor and it's a different texture.
Okay.
Because if you deal with different fishes, it's gonna be more. It gives off a different flavor. But using the lionfish, it gives a authentic, different flavor and texture to soup.
Okay.
Traditional chowder is made with rockfish.
Yeah.
Right. But I know, various fishermen, they would go out and whatever they had left, they would save the racks. They would freeze them, use the rack to make the fish stock, and then all the offcuts to add. So, most chowders are a blend of different fish, but I think using one fish in particular is quite unique.
Andrew, sounds like you're putting a chowder in the competition to me.
I'll be there providing refreshments for the patrons and the chefs, of course. They need to be well hydrated
for sure. So this event, can we give us a little bit more details in terms of where we are? I know you mentioned time earlier, but
so it's all set up right in the aquarium hall.
Okay.
So it's a nice long space. So the various chowders are spread out throughout the hall, and so we encourage you to get there early. It starts at 1:00. As you know, parking's tight, so they do have additional parking up the hill by Whitney.
Okay.
Then you can come down to the venue and then sample the various chowders, and then you have the opportunity to vote for your favorite one.
Got you. So this is a People's Choice Award. We're saying that.
There is judges as well. So we actually award in two categories for the professional judges as well as the People's Choice.
So what are the qualifications to be a professional lionfish chowder judge? I'm curious. Like, how does someone get that job?
Well, I call them professionals, but they are volunteers, so we're thankful for their time.
Fair
but
enough.
One of the judges who's been with us a few years is Natalie, and she's an incredible spear diver, and she spends a lot of her free time going out there and getting the lionfish.
Gotcha.
So she's one of the judges, and then we also have Richard Winchell, who's on the board of directors at the aquarium, and he's been involved in the inception of this event. This will be the third annual lionfish chowder competition, and again, big shout out to Butterfield and Vallis, who's the title sponsor and helping to provide the fish. And then also shout out to Outerbridge's Sherry Peppers and the Cross family, who are the proprietors of Outerbridge's Sherry Peppers. Because as you know, Sherry Peppers is an essential ingredient in any local fish chowder, as well as, of course, Gosling's Black Seal Rum.
Absolutely. And so coming back to the lionfish aspect of it, would you be able to share with us kind of like your process and how you prepare the fish? And, obviously there's certain things that we need to know in terms of making it safe to eat and all that good stuff. But any kind of, I guess, rumors or myths with regard to lionfish and, just would love to hear from the experts, basically.
So lionfish, and that's kind of the thing about the lionfish, right? Why they don't have any natural predators is because they have these spikes and these fins, I guess you could say, and effectively they carry toxins, and so it is dangerous to eat, and all of their friends that swim around down there with them are abundantly aware of that. Whereas I guess going back some time ago. We weren't, but we've discovered that. So the main thing is that you need to make sure that those spines are taken care of. You need to make sure that that's taken away. You need to handle them very carefully when you do get the actual fish itself before you start to fillet the fish and you start to take the meat away from the frame or the carcass of the fish. Once you've prepared them and you've taken away those spines that contain the toxins and stuff like that, then the fish is perfectly fine. The flesh itself is perfectly fine to eat, but it's really more about getting spiked, getting those toxins and then getting sick and the impact of that. So once you remove the meat from the fish, then it's perfectly fine to cook it up, and they're quite a delicious fish to eat. It's just a shame that they're not supposed to be here. They shouldn't be here, and they impact the waters and they impact the ecosystem, correct, and the other marine life around Bermuda.
So you've heard it from the experts, folks. Perfectly safe to eat. All right.
You just need to be careful how you catch them, how you handle them, and then how you're actually getting the meat and stuff like that. But yeah, perfectly safe to eat, absolutely, and really quite delicious. Cooked in a number of different ways, just happens to be as a chowder this time around. So,
got you. Okay. Are there any signature dishes that you guys do with lionfish outside of chowder?
We've done a few events, specials? And again, the challenge is right that where you're getting the lionfish from. Someone needs to be licensed to be able to go out and get the lionfish, and then they also need to be licensed to be able to sell it to us.
Okay,
and that is all about food safety and security, and so we can't just get people who I've got a couple of lionfish here. Can you I'm going to give them to you for you to cook and sell to people. It doesn't work that way. We can only buy from licensed people.
Okay.
So there are
good to know.
Yeah, there are measures in place to make sure that everything's done properly, and as it is with anything that we serve at the Princess, food safety is highest priority.
Number one, yeah.
Yeah. So,
sure.
But we've done a number of different events where people also, are interested in trying to help the Bermuda and help the marine ecosystems. And we've done some lionfish sushi. We've done lionfish sashimi, ceviches, pan-seared it. So again, it's a pretty versatile fish, and they're not massive. The fillets are quite delicate. But it is a delicious fish to eat. Absolutely.
Okay. I feel like I'm learning so much today about all of this. Like, even when you mentioned, like, you have to basically be licensed specifically for lionfish. Like, who do I go to get that? Like, if I want to go out there and catch lionfish and be, official, like, who do I got to talk to?
Fisheries Department.
Fisheries Department?
Yeah. They're located in the, I'm freezing on this. The Botanical Gardens, sorry.
Okay.
The Fisheries Department, located in the Botanical Gardens, is where you go to get your license for lobster diving as well as recreational spearfishing. But technically, you're not supposed to sell speared fish, so that's where it's kind of a gray area. Even if you're a commercial fisherman, you can't go out and spear a fish and then sell it to the restaurant.
Really?
There are a lot of recreational divers who go out and spear fish, but then you're also supposed to not use scuba for spearfishing at all. It's all supposed to be free diving, whereas they've made an exception for lionfish, because they are deeper and harder to get, and obviously we're trying to remove them from the reef. So you can use scuba to go down and get lionfish, but obviously you have to be licensed to do that. And
so I feel like our next episode, after obviously the competition, and we've got the winner, we have to have a spearfish diver come in and tell us his side of the story, or her side of the story as well.
We know a few, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we can bring in your pastry chef.
We can bring in JJ for sure.
I love this. So this is all going down next week. And so where can I get my tickets when I want to get them?
Well, that's what's great about it. It's free admission.
Fantastic.
The aquarium is open for the afternoon to the general public. So it's a very family-friendly event. You have the opportunity to explore the aquarium grounds as well as enjoy the chowder competition. Very festive environment.
So you got to get there early.
I recommend getting there early
if you want to get good parking spot,
because it does get busy.
I would imagine, because it's a free event and is basically all you can eat.
I think last year there was somewhere around 600 people who turned up on the Saturday for the event.
All right. So absolutely.
So we make a lot of chowder.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I would imagine. So I don't know if there's any secrets you're gonna share. You got any secret ingredients you're throwing in there?
No, I'm not gonna divulge too much. Right?
Gosling's rum is the secret ingredient.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. And But I think, so I'm clearly not from Bermuda. And when I arrived and started understanding about Bermudan fish chowder, it was really about trying to understand where did it come from. So I did a fair bit of research and to try to understand what was the origins and who first started cooking it. And it's really interesting. I think very much like Bermuda, it has been an ongoing, evolving process, and how it first started with the people who had first arrived up around St. George's and stuff like that. And basically a little bit what Andrew was saying was, they threw in whatever they caught. It wasn't necessarily just rockfish. Today is probably more predominantly rockfish, but again, it could be rockfish, it could be snapper, it could be, whatever you have.
Right.
And then it was understanding that, then all of a sudden you had other people who came to the island and they brought their culture of food and ingredients and spices, and all of these things have slowly but surely, everyone kind of has their own recipe, but the fundamentals are there. There's a Portuguese influence. You have things like tomatoes that all of a sudden somehow got their way into this recipe. And if you go back to sort of the 1700s, the English weren't necessarily using a lot of tomatoes. Gotcha. So it was real. That really came with, the next wave of people who arrived, and that was then incorporated. So, we really sort of broke it down and understood and probably found a few different sort of classic recipes and pulled it all apart and put it all back together with our own version.
Okay.
Looked at what was sort of classical techniques of cooking, because, a soup should be, from a professional chef perspective, you should have the foundation built the same way. And then you work your way through to create the soup that you want to create and the flavor profiles and depth of character that you want to create.
Got you. So the science behind it, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And, Andrew had a question before we started rolling, and I feel like it's a question that needs to be answered, or at least asked.
Yes.
Right? You want to go ahead and say it now that we're live?
What is the difference between a soup and a chowder?
I guess the basic answer is that a chowder tends to have a roux base, and so a roux is fundamentally where you take butter and you start to melt the butter, and then into that butter you incorporate flour. And the important thing is that you want to incorporate the flour and the butter together, so you're cooking out the element of the flour. You don't want it to get that sort of floury, mealy sensation in your mouth.
Okay.
Right? And what you then create is you create a base. And when you start to put liquid into it, the flour is actually then what thickens everything up. Mm-hmm. But the cooking the flour with the butter creates the roux. Again, an old school French culinary technique. And the most important thing is, instead of just having some sort of a liquid you throw in flour, it'll thicken it, but it tastes like flour. You get that coating inside your mouth. You want to remove that by being able to cook the flour in the butter, and it becomes like a paste.
Okay.
And that is predominantly chowders. Classically, historically, if you're talking about a chowder, say from New England or something like that, they're always quite thick. They almost, you really get that sort of somewhat glutinous element to them. And it's interesting when you're in Bermuda and you go and you try chowders in different places, you have varying degrees of how thick these chowders are.
Correct.
And some of them are actually quite on the opposite end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. They're not really that thick at all. And if you go back, the research that I did, if you go back, the classics weren't actually made with a fancy roux, and they weren't thickened in that same way at all. That's something which has come from whoever decided and whatever recipes they used, somewhere along the chain of everyone doing their own thing. There was a tendency and a trend on one side to start making those chowders probably a little bit more like a North American chowder.
Okay. All right. So, I think that's the best answer, Andrew, you're probably ever going to get.
That's a very good answer. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the French technique of the roux, it reminds me of gumbo in New Orleans,
exactly.
Gumbo is built in a very similar style
100%.
To the local fish chowder.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And whenever I explain this to tourists, it's not like a New England chowder. There's no cream. It is tomato based, which obviously is a tie to our Portuguese heritage as well. And that's very obvious in our codfish and potato breakfast, right? I mean, that's a melting pot of different influences which have made that breakfast what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you talk about things like the sherry peppers coming into it. Sherry peppers were really, that was sort of that was one of the original type of things, and that and spices and stuff. And again, if you go back to, no refrigeration, you're taking things out. How can you preserve stuff? How can you mask what something maybe wasn't the freshest product that you had that you were putting in? And that's where things like the creation of the sherry peppers came from, and the usage of it. Things like, spices and, whatever those spices might be, cinnamon and cardamom and allspice and cloves or whatever. All of those things there were fundamentally meant from the very beginning, rather than flavor profile. It was about masking food that maybe wasn't, the precious
wasn't
thing
the precious
to throw in to eat and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
The more you learn, right?
It was pre-refrigeration techniques.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of this talk is making me very hungry. I just want to let you know. So I need to figure out what I'm doing for lunch. But I do want to definitely check this out, and I do encourage everybody to go and check this out if you have the ability to. This next week, Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, March 29th, 1 p.m. at the Bermuda Aquarium, right in the hall.
Yes, right in the hall, where you get to also be part of the judging process to say who is crowned the Lionfish Chowder Champion of 2025. So very exciting stuff. Anybody else you want to shout out or anything you want to
Yeah, I'd love to.
add?
So the team that are actually doing it for on behalf of Hamilton Princess is Richard Sewell, Jelani Smith, and of course Shanice. And,
okay.
They've been working in the hotel. We're using our recipe that we sort of, created and adjusted a few years ago now. And, since we did that, the feedback on our chowder has been amazing. It's one of our best sellers on our Crown and Anchor menu.
Nice.
And again, picked up the gold last year, for exactly that recipe. But again, we don't want to just come back and deliver the same thing again. So we've got a couple of tricks up our sleeves. We've got a couple of little extra special bits and pieces.
Is smiling over there.
That was purely created by them. That was their idea. It was, you guys take this thing, it's yours. We'll pop up and be there to support you and everything else. But it's a really cool event. It's a family event. There's lots of kids running around and mums and dads and everybody else. So it'll be amazing to see everybody up there.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, once again, this is another edition of the Irie 98 podcast. Make sure you subscribe and also hit us up on social media. You want more updates like this? We're going to have these folks back after the competition is done because they're going to win, and we're going to talk about them winning, right? No pressure.
No pressure.
We'll talk about them winning. We're going to have lion fishermen and fishers here as well and all kinds of stuff, man. I love it. Make sure you keep it locked, and thank you so much. This is Rusty G, Andrew, Adam, Shadis, signing off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.